Hey, what's up YouTube? I am Lauger, back again today talking to you about the Pathfinder role-playing game. Now today I want to talk to you about what you should take to your first game session. Okay, as always, discuss it with your game master, your dungeon master. There might be things on my list that they say don't worry about, and there might be things I haven't thought of that they really would like you to bring. Okay, now, where to begin? Well, I'd say first and foremost, core rulebook. Now, I say that, but if you're not entirely sure you're going to like it and you want to wait a few game sessions, that's perfectly fine. Most groups would let you borrow a book for a little bit because, these rule books are not cheap. Most rule books are around $40 to $50 a piece, unless you can catch them on sale. So, unless you're 100% sure this is something you're going to really, really enjoy, you've read some stuff on the PRD, and you're convinced that you want to shell out that kind of money, I wouldn't buy the rule book. But if you have bought a rule book, bring it with you. Now, if you have any of the other rule books, bring any of the rule books you think you would use, or any of them that you think any of the other players might want to use if you know they don't have them. For example, I had a group that I was running, and I personally did not have the advanced race guide. I still do not. But one of my players had the advanced race guide. As soon as I found out they had the advanced race guide, I opened up the advanced race guide to any of the players who wanted to pick a race and play a race out of that book, because we had access to the book right there in front of us. We can flip it open, we can find out everything we need to know quick and in a hurry, and it was right there and accessible. So, core rulebook if you have one. Any of the other books that you think you might need if you have those. Okay, now, what's the next thing you should probably bring with you? I would say most GMs would give you a blank character sheet in advance of actually playing a game for the first time. And they might tell you, here's how we're doing stats. Do it on your own. They might tell you, fill out as much of it as you can, but leave these parts blank. Fill it out however your game master has told you what parts you can and cannot fill out on your own, and go from there. But have as much of the character sheet completed as you've been instructed to by your game master prior to your first session. It will save a lot of time. Okay, now, what else can you bring to a game session? Well, we are playing a tabletop role-playing game, and everything is controlled by dice. So I would bring a set of dice. Again, don't go out shelling out a bunch of money if you're not 100% sure this is something you're going to play. But if you are, you can buy dice relatively cheap off of places like Amazon. I bought a bag of dice off of there that contained 8 complete sets, I think it was, for like $8, something like that. And what is a complete set of dice? Well, each set of dice has a complete set for tabletop role-playing is consisted of 7 dice. You have your D4, and when I say a D4 or a D6, whatever I'm talking about, D stands for, usually the number before a D is how many. The D stands for dice, and the number after the letter D is how many sides. So D4 has 4 sides. It is a pyramid. It goes up like that. Then you have your standard D6. You have a D8, a D12, you have 2 different D10s. You have a regular D10 and you have a D percentage. Now, the D percentage dice, you would roll both of these together. They equal a D100 effectively. And it would get you a percentile number. And lastly, you have a d20. This is the most used dice in the game. Almost every ability you use starts with a d20 and you add or subtract something to it. So, if you have them, a set of dice. You can also get other variations. This was out of that bag of dice I was telling you about. Your local game store would have plenty of dice, all varying colors, and I think a lot of the game store ones that are varying patterns and things are in the $10 range. Okay, so far we have rulebooks, character sheet, and dice. But what else can you bring to a game session? Well, I have an example of one here, and that is a miniature. This was initially a white, pure white figure, that color. This was a player of mine for a campaign I just ran. They played a cleric. That was the miniature they chose. They painted it themselves. And you can buy your own mini if you want to invest the money into doing that. Most of the minis are a couple dollars a piece. They're not that expensive. Then you can get paint if you want to do all that. I don't have the patience to paint minis. I also don't have the time to do a lot of minis. But if my players want to take the time to do it, I encourage them to. I'm perfectly okay with that. But you need a mini of some kind. If you have or you should bring a mini if you have one, if you want to invest that kind of money and time into it. But otherwise, your GM might have something like this. It is a cardstock mini out of, this one I believe is out of the NPC Codex. These are options. There are actual paper minis, which are similar to these, but they're just paper that are glued together that you can print out. In some games might use something as simple as buttons and coins. It really doesn't matter. As long as you can keep track of what is yours and what you're doing, and you can put your imagination into what's going on, that's all that matters. What miniature you use or what you're using to represent your player doesn't really matter. Okay, so you have your mini. Now, what else? You probably want to bring snacks, potentially, depending on how the game is going to be set up. Some games have like a snack bowl set out, and you just go get a snack off of from whatever, and you kind of eat and munch as you go play through the game. Other gaming groups will take a break in the middle somewhere and stop and actually just eat a meal or maybe get pizza, something like that. It just depends on the group and how you get things going. So you might want to bring snacks or food depending on what your group normally does. And you also might want to bring your own drink. Now, that being said, your game master might actually have something there. Or maybe one of the other players is going to provide. Maybe it's a rotating deal where you guys meet at everybody's house once a week and whoever's hosting provides all that stuff. These are just some generic ideas of what you might need to bring to a gaming session. What else can you bring? Make sure you have enough pens, pencils, a notebook. You're going to want to keep good notes. I've always said as a game master, if you can't tell me where you picked up a particular item, you never got that item. So if we're in a 6-book adventure path and we're in book 6, and you're like, oh yeah, what's this potion I picked up 6 months ago? And I have got no idea what book you were even in at that point, where you picked it up. If you can't give me something around the idea of where you picked it up, flip through your notes and go, okay, well, I picked it up in a room that looked like this with, maybe a description of the guy, something I can use to figure out where it was in my notes. I'm going to say, well, you dropped it somewhere, or you pull it out of your backpack, but it was smashed. Because if I can't figure out what it is, there's no way for me to determine what you have. And if you can't give me something, how am I supposed to know? So you're going to want to have a notebook to take good notes. You're going to have writing utensils. I always fill out character sheets in pencil because things will change as you level up, as you find better stuff. There will always be changes made to this, so pencil's the way to go for that. So have pencil, a pen, probably write your notes, a notebook, and any rule books you want to use, dice, a mini if you want to go that route, snacks and a drink, depending on your game location. And that's about it. That's really all you need to bring to a game session. As always, if I forgot something, drop me a line in the comments. I appreciate any and all comments. Like, comment, subscribe, of course. And yeah, that's what I've got. Until next time.